Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the motion that pursuant to Standing Order number 37, the Senate do adjourn to discuss the definite matter of national importance, namely the drought situation in the country. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ASAL counties are faced with devastating drought situation. That situation has affected almost all the counties except 3 in the 23 ASAL counties. 11 out of these ASAL counties are in alarm stage or phase of drought, and the remaining 9 are in alert stage of drought. Mr. Speaker, sir, having been a governor for the last 10 years, I would like to state that our county governments are ill-resourced and ill-prepared to deal with catastrophes of such magnitude as the devastating drought situation in the country right now. Mr. Speaker, sir, drought is a recurring phenomenon globally, and it is a hidden global crisis that is worse than pandemic such as COVID-19 and other pandemics that has happened. And unfortunately, this crisis has not been mainstreamed or considered for the magnitude of devastation that it is causing across the globe. Mr. Speaker, sir, countries far much developed than our country, Kenya, have reported, countries in China have reported dams and rivers whose bottom has never been seen because of the water content in those rivers having dried up. Just most recently, it has been reported, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the streams feeding most dams and lakes, like Lake Naivasha, has dried, and the lakes are losing 0.5 meters of water literally every week. The extensive direct and indirect impact of drought has never been properly quantified by our country. The situation in Kenya's arid and semi-arid lands, which make up 89% of the landmass of this country and houses 38% of the population of Kenya. These regions also house 90% of the wildlife that is bringing in about 12% of, contributing 12% to our GDP. The ASAL counties also host 70% of the livestock wealth of this country. And as such, is estimated that over 70 billion worth of livestock wealth. Mr. Speaker, sir, the ASALs have been hit the hardest, with the former president announcing or declaring drought a national disaster in September of 2021. Before that declaration, the counties in the ASALs have been dealing with drought because, on average, about 4 successive rainy seasons have failed in the ASALs. And while maybe the counties that are not ASALs may not feel the immediate impact, but what is happening right now can very easily make it its way to other regions if not capped. However, in the last few years, the last 10 years to be precise, that period have reduced to 2 to 3 years. And where we stand right now, the ASAL counties, most of them have had, out of 12 successive rainy seasons, we've had less than adequate or suppressed rains in the ASALs. The situation has been made worse by the locust invasion that just took place, which has severely impacted on the capacities of these ASAL counties. as if that was not enough.
Give Senator Roba the mic, kindly.
Your mic has gone off.
Sorry.
You're fine.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I say, while the ASALs have historically been suffering periodic drought, but over the last, the droughts or between 1969 to almost 2020 has been averaging, between 5 to 10 years. But over the last 10 years, the situation has changed. And now, every 2 to 3 years, we are suffering this drought situation. This situation, as if it was not enough, Mr. Speaker, sir, the recent locust invasion has affected over 1 million hectares of land, pasture within the country. And that has exaggerated the situation and really gravely interfered with the coping capacity of counties to be able to deal with drought as it was. And as if that was not enough, over the last 3 years, the COVID pandemic has made it worse. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand here today. Our government, led by President William Ruto, has announced some intervention for these counties. And that discussion is ongoing as it is. Some little intervention has already gone. But what I would like to request and emphasize is scientific determination using the UN indicators of food ration per person to be able to determine the level of intervention required. More than half the livestock in the ASALs have gone. That means more than the pastoralist communities will not be able to cope even if we receive rain, because their mainstay or the dependency in terms of livelihood has been pastoralism. Mr. Speaker, sir, the situation in Mandera County, where I represent, is not any better. Over 400,000 households are in dire need of, nutrition and food support. An estimated 200,000 is experiencing severe food insecurity, while around 100,000 are likely to suffer from acute malnutrition by the end of 2022. The affected households lack basic necessities as their support has been wiped out in terms of livestock numbers. Therefore, I urge the government to immediately carry out coordinated, multi-sectoral, timely humanitarian assistance to contain the, by way of accelerated food security for purpose of intervention in order to save lives. And number two, I also request operationalization of National Drought Emergency Fund. I also want to request implementation of blanket intervention where the situation can be tamed. Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, and with only two last points, previously, before we were declared a middle-income country, what was happening is non-state actors were coming in to help county governments to cope. But after we've been declared middle-income country, the non-state actors can only intervene after declaration of drought as national emergency. And I would like to request our president, who I believe is extremely compassionate, to declare drought a national emergency as urgently as possible so that we can synergize our efforts between
Senator
the national
Roba,
government, county governments, and non-state actors. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the motion and request Senator Enoch Wambua to second. Thank you.